All right. Mike, check. Justin Hunt, it's all happening. This is take two, guys. I'm getting used to this new podcast equipment. I just recorded an entire segment and realized I didn't turn on I didn't turn on my trackpad. Oh my gosh. Hey, reps. These are reps. That's what I've been doing this month anyway, stacking reps. That's why you're seeing more news type videos as opposed to deep dives and breakdowns. All of this, as I've explained to you guys, is setting up for when I start doing lives and the type of live show that I want to do. It's going to be a little bit more dynamic than what you're seeing now, but I'm trying to get these reps in. I'm stacking reps. So I'm going to do my first members only live the beginning of September. So I'll hit you guys on the member side of things. I'll have some surprises for you. I want to make sure that, you know, before I start doing lives just on a daily basis, I want to, maybe it's just me. I just want to feel like I'm good at this. This isn't really even something that's in my wheelhouse. So I really appreciate you guys. Big shout out to Rory Bateson. I think I got that right, Rory. Awesome generosity you've shown. Thank you so much for being a part of this community. Same thing for you, Antoine Kingsbury. They've donated to the Cash App and to the Linktree and support this channel. And it's priceless. And big shout out to my members. 58 members now, 2 away from 60. It's all happening. But thank you guys for rocking with me. Big show today. We've got 3 stories today. The first one, this is election season. We've had the DNC, the Democratic National Convention, has been going on. And there's a whole lot of hip hop in this mug. There's a whole bunch. Common performed. During the California roll call, they played California Love, All Right, and Not Like Us. It was a trip watching Gavin Newsom do the California roll call with Not Like Us in the background. I mean, that's so wild. Little John basically did a show. They had Little John perform. Well, I guess he ushered in the Georgia roll call. Little John basically performed. I think this is where we're getting. I think this is where I wonder what 2028 will bring. You know, that's going to be an election year and the Olympics. They're going to break out. Ray guns are going to make a return. Pop over here and do a kangaroo. I hope not. I really do hope not. But you can see the angle. You can see the importance of young people and diversity on the blue team. They really need young people and diversity. This isn't something that's necessarily new. I think the blue team does a lot more outreach to different communities. I think they embrace different types of artists from different communities because that 10 is so much bigger, so much more diverse, right? You have all these different, often opposing groups of people who, in my opinion, are generally forced to vote for the blue team because the red team is so narrow and so Confederate. Okay, so the Confederates, they don't really like anybody else. I mean, I guess they think that other people are fine. They just don't think everybody should have rights. But nevertheless, that's what we're seeing at the convention. And the Wall Street Journal dropped this interesting video, right? I thought about this stuff while looking at the convention because young men are leaving the blue team for the red team at really high rates. And so we got a video right here. Let's check it out.
8% of young people lean Democratic. 2012, 53%. And in the last 2 major election years, that percentage held steady at 55%. But in 2023, that number dipped below 50% for the first time since 2005. And you'll notice right here, they've started to lean more Republican. And that's partly because of one specific group, young men. Young men have increased their support of the Republican Party from 35% to 48%.
35% to 48%, 13% in 7 years. 7 years, that's super significant.
A 13 percentage point increase in just 7 years. And this is a new trend. While 2020 exit polls show that young men backed Biden by 15 percentage points, a February 2024 Wall Street Journal poll found they favored Trump by 14 percentage points. And this loss of young male voters is a major issue for the Democratic Party going into November. The question now, can Kamala Harris bring some back? Here's what's driving young men to support Republicans and what it could mean for the presidential election to come.
America great again.
When we ask young voters,
What issue is most important to you when you go to cast a vote? Among young men, it's the economy. Among young women, it's abortion.
See, this is another reason why I feel like Kamala is going to be okay ultimately in this election. Gen Z is going to have some brand new 9 million voters, first-time voters that are going to be eligible this election cycle. And women are upset about that Roe v. Wade being overturned by the Supreme Court. The red team has been fighting since the 60s, since it passed. They've been fighting for 70 years to overturn Roe v. Wade, and they finally get it. And it is wildly unpopular. I mean, look at that. That is crazy. That's another reason why I feel like Kamala is ultimately going to be okay, because you can't have a population of people, multiple populations of people, at least one generation of people who now has less rights than when they were born. like, it's only half the population. And then a lot of the crazy stuff that they're doing in these states where they've gotten rid of essentially abortion rights completely. Ugh, but look at that. Look at that gap.
17% of men say the economy is the most important issue, followed by democracy and immigration. Whereas for young women, the top issue is abortion, by a lot.
Why is this happening? Well, we put the reasons into two different buckets. One is the life experiences that young men and young women are having. Those life experiences are diverging.
Young men without a college degree have seen the greatest decline in labor force participation. Meanwhile, a record 87% of college-educated women are in the workforce.
Yeah, see, I mean, you look at that that decline with men who just have a high school diploma. That's blue-collar jobs. That's another reason why conversations around the border, around immigration, that's why those are so potent and so powerful. Newsflash, guys. It's not the immigrants. It is the people who run the companies, always forcing wages down. It's so funny because, no matter what the unemployment rate is, it can never be zero. You can't have a 0% unemployment rate. You do that, now the dynamic between employer and employee is inverted, and you no longer have capitalism. So they come up with these straw men all the time. Like, it's always this other population that's keeping you from getting your thing, and it's really effective on men. I mean, if you look at men with just a high school diploma, like, they're dropping in the labor force, and they're using all kinds of in my opinion, fear tactics that work really well with young men. And women, they go into college, they get their degrees.
And today, women make up 60% of college graduates.
This division that we're seeing between young men and young women, it goes beyond who they're going to vote for Congress or president. It goes to a range of policy issues. So then let's look at what the government is offering. The Biden administration has moved to forgive federally funded student loans. That affects young women more than young men.
During the 2019-2020 school year, 49% of female undergraduate students took out loans, compared to only 42% of male undergraduates. And 66% of all student debt is carried by women.
The young women favored forgiving student loans by 45 percentage points. The young men were about equally divided. I mean, that's a big difference.
Meanwhile, young men support extending Trump's tax cuts by 23 percentage points.
That's another thing that's always crazy to me. Like 23%, I mean, these are tax cuts largely for wealthy people and for corporations. Supply side economics is an abject failure. It's an abject failure. I mean, the idea of supply side economics or Reaganomics or trickle down economics is that you give tax breaks or you tax incentives or you give money and rebates back to the employer, in this case, corporations. You give it to corporations, they take that money, they invest in their business, they hire new staff, they create new business lines, and then when they do that, then people who work for the company get paid. They get able to hire more people and pay them more money. But that's not how it ends up working out. You end up having stock buybacks. You have all kinds of financial tricks, in my opinion, that help boost the stock value. So a lot of times these things don't even work. And then CEO pay has ballooned something astronomical, like 300% since the 60s. So that is where the money is being consolidated at the top. There's nothing trickling down. And this isn't even the first time in this nation's history we've tried this. Like in the early 1900s, they had this thing it was the same thing. It's supply side economics. It's the same theory. But it was called horse and sparrow, because at that point in time, they had horses and buggies riding around the streets everywhere. They didn't have cars. They had horses. So it was called horse and sparrow economics. And so the idea was, this is how they sold it to people. They sold it to people by saying, yeah, if you feed the horse gets healthy. And then when the horse takes a shit, it takes a healthier shit. And then the sparrows come and they get the nutrients out the shit. Like, that was how they sold it to people, and it worked because people had horses, so they understood that language. And then they move on to trickle-down economics. So they went from shitting on you to pissing on you. I don't know. Maybe that's progress in someone's mind.
Which cut the corporate tax rate and reduced some individual income tax.
And now, because of our tax cuts, you can keep more of your hard-earned money.
But women opposed the proposed extension by 20 percentage points, a full 43-point difference.
That's data that goes like this. Young men headed in one direction and young women in the other. That's a big difference. Data does not usually segment young voters that remarkably. This is something new.
Which brings us back to this chart. 22% of young female voters say abortion is their #1 issue in this election, a key aspect of Harris's campaign.
We trust women to make decisions about their own body.
Only 3% of young male voters said the same. And young men and women stacked up differently on other issues as well. With immigration, Trump's policies are much more likely to be supported by men than women. Men support deploying troops at the border by 10 percentage points, whereas women oppose this policy by 15 points. And when it comes to building the wall, one of Trump's key immigration policies, men are only slightly leaning towards opposition, but women overwhelmingly oppose it. These gaps are hard to explain just by differences in lived experience, which brings us to the second thing that explains the gap between young men and women.
What are the candidates and what are the parties saying to young voters? Donald Trump and the Republican Party are putting out a lot of messages expressly intended to appeal to young men. Donald Trump has gone to Ultimate Fighting Championship matches. He recently appeared on the podcast of Logan Paul. He went to a sneaker convention to sell his own brand of sneakers.
That's so crazy. I mean, the things that they think are going to appeal to people are so funny to me. I mean, Trump is a master marketer, and I think he's even better at making sure that he makes money, even if his businesses don't always. If that's not the case always for his businesses, but like Trump gets a rapper out of jail, they're like, "Oh, black people gonna vote for him. He helped out Kodak Black." It's so funny. Trump gets convicted or he found guilty. He's a criminal. He literally has felonies on his record, and people are like, "Hey, maybe the black vote, maybe the criminal vote is now." Locked up. I mean, he's got golden shoes. I guess it was Fox News. I was watching a segment. They're like, hey, man, yeah, black people like sneakers. These guys own golden sneakers. It's a trip.
Get young people out to vote.
These are audiences that are overwhelmingly male and overwhelmingly filled with young men. And it's a way that Donald Trump and his campaign have been saying, hey, young men, I'm with you. I'm on the same page as you. I understand you.
Meanwhile,
a lot of the messaging from the Democratic Party has been towards issues that are more salient for women.
When I am President of the United States, I will sign into law the protections for reproductive freedom.
So
that's what I'm saying, man. That is a huge thing. You've got women, like this video is crazy, right? You've got women are more educated. They're becoming more powerful in society. You have Roe v. Wade was overturned, and you have a woman president who's running with a whole lot of energy. We don't know anything about her platform yet, to be honest. She hasn't released an official platform. She hasn't done an interview yet. She's having a whole party this week in Chicago. With a lot of your favorite artists showing up to perform. Hasn't put out a policy yet. I think we can get a feel for what it'll be. I think it's going to look very similar to a lot of things that Biden's doing, but some tweaks here or there. And women are, by a long shot, women believe the number one issue is abortion. Number one issue is abortion. So I don't know, man. I think this is going to be really good for Kamala. We'll see what her first interview looks like. We'll see what her platform looks like. But this feels like a one dominant issue election that affects half the population. Half.
What does this mean for November? Young women historically vote at higher rates than young men. But experts say that with a tight election, the Democratic Party will need to draw in as many votes as possible. The next challenge for the Republican Party will be figuring out how to turn these young male supporters into actual voters.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. The more I watch Trump, man, I mean, he just looks. 2016 was a long time ago, and it looks like it. His energy is not the same, and you combine that with a substantial issue. We'll see how this goes, but let me know what you guys think. I mean, are there any other reasons why you think that young men are leaving the Democratic Party, leaving the blue team and heading over to the red team? Does this matter? Does this make a difference? And if you've made the switch recently, let me know what you guys think, because you guys know me. I don't rock with the Confederates. And Trump got too many Confederates around him for me to feel comfortable, regardless of how entertaining I find him to be. But that's just me over here in the Company Man Cave. My name is Justin Hunt. Like and subscribe to the channel. Follow at the Company Man on everything. It's all happening.
Justin Hunt is here, it's all happening. Justin Hunt is here, it's all happening. The mathematical breakdown of this mighty game of rap we in. It's boom bapping. Systematical culture views us radical, it's all happening. Shaking hands and dapping it. Life through the lens of hip hop, from trip hop to yes, y'all, you don't stop, you don't stop. Justin Hunt is here, it's all happening. It's all happening, yes, it's all happening. Justin Hunt is here, it's all happening. It's all happening, yes, it's all happening.